The rain had fallen all night, slicking the streets of Derry with silvered reflections of streetlights and the occasional passing car. Yet the city's veneer of quiet normalcy was a lie, one that had been whispered in tunnels, alleys, and forgotten drains for centuries. Beneath the streets, in the labyrinthine underworld of sewers and abandoned conduits, something stirred, something older than the town itself. Pennywise, the dancing clown, had been waiting as it always did, its body folded into darkness, eyes glowing faintly red and yellow, a smile sharp as broken glass. The air was thick with the metallic tang of iron and wet stone. In the silence, the faint drip of water echoed like the pulse of a monstrous heart. And then, a sound unlike any it had heard before. A footstep, deliberate and heavy, reverberating through the tunnels, not the timid shuffle of a child, not the careful sneak of a petty thief, but a predator's stride, confident, assured, and yet alien. Pennywise's smile widened. Its voice, when it came, was soft, almost playful, a whisper curling around the wet stone. "Ah, so, the shadow comes to play." From the darkness emerged a boy, though his presence seemed impossible. He was at once a child and a man, human and not. His hair was black as midnight, skin pale, eyes the unmistakable blue of Roland Deschain, the last gunslinger. And yet, there was something else, something darker, something that twisted the very shape of his small frame. Mordred stepped into the dim glow of the fluorescent lights that had long since flickered into decay. His body pulsed with a strange energy, muscles tightening unnaturally as he grew taller with each step. The red mark on his heel shimmered faintly, the sigil of Eld's bloodline glowing in the darkness. Every instinct he had, the hunter's patience, the predator's calculation, was coiled tightly. Pennywise tilted its head, regarding him with a predator's curiosity. "Ah, yes, you smell of fear, child, but also of fire, of hunger. You are not like the others I've eaten. You are something else." Mordred's gaze did not waver. He had been raised in the shadows of destiny, in the twisted corridors of prophecy, and the taunts of this thing did not faze him. "I am not here to fear, clown," he said, voice low, deliberate. "I am here to eat." The clown laughed, a sound that ricocheted against the walls, warped and split into countless echoes that seemed to mock even the air itself. Its form shimmered, a dozen Pennywises coalescing and dissolving in the puddles of sewage water. "Eat, you say? You are bold, too bold. But boldness is such a delicious flavor. Come closer. Let me taste it." Mordred shifted, a flicker of red igniting along his skin, and his form rippled. The human figure blurred, elongated. 8 limbs sprang from his back, each ending in clawed, spindly fingers. The mark on his heel moved, stretching along one of the limbs like a ribbon of living blood. His eyes, now black, reflected the faint light as they focused on the clown's shifting form. "Primitive tricks will not save you, clown," Mordred hissed, voice layered over the sound of chittering, 8-limbed fury coiling like a living web around him. "I am smarter than any child you have ever toyed with, smarter than the Losers Club." The clown's grin split wider, its face elongating unnaturally. "Oh, I do hope so. It is boring when the prey knows nothing. I like a challenge. I like a hunt." And then the first strike came, not physical, but psychological. Pennywise's form shimmered, twisting into the figures of everyone Mordred had ever known. Roland, Susanna, the fallen members of his quartet. The voices called to him in the shadows. "Mordred, you are alone. You are hungry. You are weak." Mordred's claws flexed, his mind racing, thoughts snapping like lightning. He could feel the thread connecting him to his parents, the lingering pulse of Roland, the faint echo of Susanna's presence in his surrogate womb. He recognized the illusion for what it was, and yet, a part of him, a younger, hungrier, more human part, faltered. "You will not control me," he roared, and the blackness of his eyes flared red. He lunged, a blur of 8 limbs, moving faster than the eye could follow. Pennywise split into a dozen illusions, each a grotesque mockery of his own fears. They leapt, struck, vanished, yet none touched him. Mordred's mind, sharpened by hunger and prophecy, calculated trajectories, probabilities, weak points in the clown's illusions. With a strike of one clawed hand, he tore through one of the forms, and it was gone, dissipating into mist with a high-pitched screech that sounded almost like a scream of surprise. "Clever," the clown's voice echoed, now calm, amused. "But cleverness alone will not save you." From the shadows, the smell of iron grew stronger. Mordred's instincts screamed. This was a predator that could shift reality itself, that had eaten the fear of hundreds of children, of hundreds of generations. But Mordred did not retreat. He circled, claws clicking against the wet stone, sensing the shifts in the air as Pennywise tested him, probed him with its psychic tendrils. "Do you know what fear really is?" the clown asked, and suddenly Mordred was no longer in the tunnels. The world had shifted. He was standing in a sunless street, buildings decayed, windows dark. The echoes of laughter and sobbing filled the air, 1,000 children trapped in cages made of shadow. Mordred's 8 limbs unfurled, claws scraping concrete. He could sense the hunger in him, the primal need that drove him forward, the compulsion to feed, but also the Ka thread pulling him toward his destiny. The illusions of the children were wrong, false. He recognized them for what they were. "I do not fear," he said aloud, voice echoing across the empty street. "I am fear incarnate." And with that, he lunged forward, body twisting unnaturally. His claws tore through shadow, through illusion, through the mockery of flesh, and landed on the form of Pennywise himself. The clown shrieked, a sound that cracked the air and made the walls of the illusory street bend and shiver. "Ah!" the clown shrieked, flailing. "Very good, very, very good. I enjoy a predator, but beware. Every predator has its weakness." Mordred pressed forward, sensing the pause in the clown's rhythm, the tiny flicker where it was not entirely present, where its mind was stretched across 1,000 forms, 1,000 realities. He struck again, faster, harder, tearing at the essence of the creature itself. The tunnels shuddered. Reality seemed to quake around them, the air charged with the raw power of 2 beings who were more than human, more than the physical forms they occupied. Water splashed, lights flickered, and the echoes of centuries of fear and hunger collided in the darkness. "You are not ready," the clown hissed, voice 1,000 whispers layered atop each other. "And yet, there is something in you, something familiar." Mordred paused, claws flexing, black eyes flickering with blue for a heartbeat. He felt it, the Ka thread tugging, the faint whisper of Roland, the pulse of destiny that had shaped him since before birth. He was not just a predator. He was the heir of something older, something terrible, something that could stand against the embodiment of fear itself. And for the first time, Pennywise hesitated. "We will meet again, clown," Mordred said, shifting back into his human form, muscles coiling, eyes flickering between black and blue. "I will not fall to you, not now." "Oh, I know," Pennywise whispered, voice dripping with amusement and menace. "And I will be waiting, always." Mordred stepped into a shaft of light from a broken grate, his form stretching tall, the red mark on his heel glowing faintly. With one final glance, He vanished into the shadowy network of sewers, leaving Pennywise alone among the echoes of dripping water and distant laughter. The clown's grin returned, wider than ever. Ah, this is going to be fun. The tunnels were silent again, but beneath the surface, the city of Derry shivered. Somewhere in the dark, a predator had awakened, and a clown had found its match. Mordred moved through the tunnels like a shadow born from the stone itself, the red sigil on his heel pulsing faintly with the rhythm of his heartbeat. Every turn, every dripping pipe, every echo of water was mapped in his mind before his feet even touched the ground. He was hunger and instinct given flesh, a hybrid of human cunning and predatory chaos. And yet, even as he moved, he could feel the presence of the clown. Pennywise was close, always close, lurking in every reflection, in every ripple of water, in the whispered echoes of the sewers. The first confrontation had been a test, a probing of limits. Now, the real game began. Mordred's 8 limbs moved in perfect synchrony, a grotesque ballet of speed and precision. His claws scraped against the wet stone, leaving faint streaks of blood that shimmered in the dim light. He did not fear Pennywise, not fully, but he understood the danger. The clown was not merely flesh and bone. It was an idea, a virus of terror that could unmake reality itself. Ahead, the air shimmered. Water droplets hung suspended, twisting into forms that mirrored Mordred's deepest fears. Roland's disappointed gaze, Susanna's terrified face, Jake's pleading eyes. The illusions were nearly perfect. The boy predator faltered for an instant, instincts clashing with his intellect. Then, with a surge of will, he lashed out, claws slicing through the false images. They shattered into mist, screaming, dissolving like smoke in the tunnel. "Not bad," Pennywise's voice whispered from every direction, soft as silk, sharp as knives. "Not bad, little spider. But cleverness alone is not enough. You need fear, real fear." Mordred's black eyes narrowed. "Fear is a tool," he hissed, "not a weapon." The tunnels twisted around him, impossible geometry bending reality. Walls stretched and shrank, shadows moved with sentience. Pennywise emerged again, multiple forms flickering in and out, a dozen clowns all grinning, all reaching for him. But Mordred's senses were honed beyond normal comprehension. He moved with preternatural speed, striking with all 8 limbs, each attack precise, calculated, severing phantom limbs before they could touch him. One form of Pennywise lunged, clown face smiling innocently. Mordred struck, claws tearing through its chest. But as the illusion dissolved, a voice pierced his mind, not the clown's, but the echo of another predator. "Roland, Mordred, remember who you are. Fear is not your master." The reminder strengthened him. His form shimmered, human and spider blending into one, aura of Ka coiling around him like a protective shroud. He could feel the Ka thread, subtle yet insistent, tugging him forward. Pennywise hissed, a sound that rippled like broken glass in water. "Ah, so the boy has Ka," the clown said, voice layered, coming from all around him. "Ka, threads that tie you to your masters. How deliciously convenient. But threads can be tangled, and you are so very young." Mordred felt the clown's power pressing at the edges of his mind, testing his control. Hunger flared, a raw, burning instinct that demanded satisfaction. He could smell it, fear, blood, the essence of prey. Pennywise was feeding on the echoes of his own fear, turning his mind against him. But Mordred's intellect, honed in the crucible of prophecy and Ka, guided him. He lashed out again, claws striking with lethal precision. The illusions cracked and screamed, and one by one, Pennywise's forms were torn apart. But the clown was not truly gone. Its laughter echoed endlessly, a chorus of torment that reverberated through Mordred's mind. Then the tunnel shifted. Water pooled around Mordred's feet, rising like a tide. Shapes emerged from the black liquid. Children, dozens of them, faces twisted in fear and hunger. Mordred recognized the illusion for what it was, but instinct screamed, "Feed, strike, survive." He lunged, claws tearing through the phantoms, yet every strike was met with another, faster, sharper, more insidious. "Clever, clever, clever," Pennywise whispered, voice slithering through the tunnel like a living thing. But cleverness is not strength. Hunger is. Fear is. And fear, oh, fear is eternal. Mordred paused, shifting back to human form, chest heaving. His eyes, blue now, glimmered with calculated fury. "I am stronger than fear," he said, voice low, venomous. "I am Ka incarnate." Pennywise's smile stretched impossibly wide, revealing rows of jagged teeth. "Ka, yes, Ka, but even Ka can snap. And sometimes the snap is delicious." The tunnel quivered. Mordred could feel it. The clown was probing deeper now, stretching beyond the sewers into the very fabric of reality. The walls shimmered and warped. The floor rippled like water. And from the darkness came a whisper that chilled him to the bone. "Your hunger is not enough." Mordred's black eyes flared. He shifted fully, pausing to take in the environment. The clown's power was immense, but it relied on illusions and manipulation. Hunger, rage, calculation, Ka, these were his weapons. He coiled like a spring, claws scraping against the wet stone. Then with a surge of raw speed, he launched himself forward, a blur of human and spider, striking at the central form of Pennywise that shimmered at the far end of the tunnel. "Ah!" the clown shrieked, voice fracturing into hundreds of overlapping screams. You are not what I expected." Mordred struck again and again, each blow tearing through the clown's forms. Pennywise's laughter became fragmented, uncertain, almost afraid. For a moment, the clown's illusions faltered. The children's screams turned into whispers, and the tunnel became real again, dark and wet, but tangible. "You cannot destroy me," Pennywise hissed, voice thin and wavering. "I am older than fear, older than you, older than everything." "Then you will eat," Mordred said, voice low, eyes black, claws poised. "And you will die." The first strike pierced the clown's core form. Pennywise screamed, a sound that cracked stone and water alike. The illusions shattered completely, and for the first time, the clown was revealed in its raw, horrific essence. A twisting, amorphous shape, teeth and eyes everywhere, body flowing like liquid shadow. Mordred recoiled slightly, sensing the raw power. This was not a child or a man. It was an idea made flesh, a creature born from the deepest recesses of fear itself. But Mordred was Ka born of prophecy and blood, and he did not falter. Hunger and destiny intertwined in him, sharpening every movement, focusing every strike. He lunged again, claws raking across the amorphous flesh. Pennywise screamed, recoiling, twisting, trying to escape, but Mordred pressed forward, relentless. The Ka thread pulsed in his mind, pulling him, guiding him. He could feel the essence of Roland, guiding him, teaching him to strike, to calculate, to destroy without hesitation. "You are strong," Pennywise hissed, fragmented, disjointed. "But even strength can fail." Mordred's eyes flared black, and he struck one final time, The claws found the heart of the monstrous clown, ripping through flesh, shadow, and mind. Pennywise screamed, a sound that echoed through tunnels, streets, and the subconscious of every child who had ever feared him. Then, silence. The water stilled, the echoes faded, and for a heartbeat, Mordred stood alone, trembling, not from fear, but from exertion. He had faced the embodiment of terror and survived. Yet he knew this was not the end. Pennywise was older than him, older than Ka, and it would return. But for now, he had won the first battle. And in the quiet, the tunnels whispered of shadows yet to come. The tunnels ended, but the darkness did not. Mordred emerged into the city above, rain still falling, the streets slick with reflections of shattered streetlights. The world felt wrong. Buildings leaned at impossible angles, shadows stretched longer than they should, and the hum of electricity in the wires seemed to whisper his name. He could smell it. Pennywise. Not in the tunnels this time, but everywhere at once, in every reflection, every puddle, every dark corner of Derry. The clown had followed him, or perhaps it had always been here, waiting. The city itself seemed alive, bending to its will. Mordred's claws flexed, eyes flickering black. His human mind guided his body, but the predator within hissed, hungry for action. He knew better than to strike blindly. Pennywise's power was subtle as much as it was monstrous. It was a creature of fear, but Mordred had learned something crucial in the tunnels. Fear could be resisted, calculated, even turned against the one who wielded it. "Welcome to my playground," the clown's voice echoed from the street lamps, twisting and doubling back, overlapping itself like a symphony of madness. "Look at all these children, look at all these toys, and yet you are something else." Mordred ignored the illusions of children running along the sidewalks, laughing and screaming at once. Each flicker of light, each shadow that moved unnaturally, was a test. He calculated, lunged, and struck, claws slicing through the phantom forms. Water splashed, reflections shattered, and with each attack, he felt the Ka thread pulling him forward, steadying him, keeping his mind sharp. Suddenly, a wall of shadow erupted from the street ahead. Pennywise took form, colossal now, monstrous even beyond the grotesque forms of the tunnels. Its teeth were jagged, dripping with darkness, and its eyes, dozens of them, glowed red. Children's voices screamed from its maw, and every syllable twisted Mordred's instincts, tempting him to panic, to falter. "I've waited so long for this," Pennywise whispered, voice everywhere and nowhere. "The spider that thinks it can hunt fear, let's see how long you last." Mordred lunged, spinning midair, claws tearing through shadow. The creature recoiled, twisting, multiplying itself, its body folding like liquid nightmare. Each form was different. One had limbs too long, another had 100 eyes. A third appeared as a giant child with Mordred's own face, grinning at him. The boy's mind raced. He recognized the tricks, illusions, manipulation, an attempt to fracture his perception of reality. But he was more than predator. He was Ka, born of prophecy, a hybrid of destiny and hunger. Each strike he made was precise, tearing through form after form, until he reached the central essence of the clown. "Ah!" Pennywise shrieked, voice fracturing, echoing through alleys, streets, and empty lots. You are strong, too strong." Mordred's black eyes flared. He shifted fully, spider and human fused, muscles coiling with energy. Hunger burned, sharp and pure, but intellect guided him. He lunged, claws raking through the heart of the monstrous clown. Pennywise screamed, a sound that seemed to split the sky, warp the air, and make the city itself shiver. Buildings trembled. Streetlights flickered and died. Reflections in puddles warped into screaming faces. The illusions tried to overwhelm him, but Mordred's mind, trained by Ka, calculated, anticipated, and struck. One final lunge, and the core of the clown was ripped apart, the screaming forms collapsing into nothingness. For a heartbeat, Derry was silent. Rain fell softly on broken asphalt. Mordred stood, chest heaving, claws dripping with shadow essence, the city around him eerily still. But Pennywise was not gone. It was a creature of fear, and fear could not be destroyed. It could only be delayed. Somewhere, in the reflections, in the shadows of the city, it watched, waiting, learning, planning its next attack. Mordred shifted back into human form, blue eyes steady, red mark glowing faintly. He knew the battle above ground had been won, but the war was far from over. Pennywise was clever, immortal in its own way, and its playground extended far beyond these streets. "Ka will guide me," Mordred whispered, voice low, venomous, and full of hunger. "And fear, I will turn it against you." From the shadows, a child's laugh echoed. Not real, not truly alive, but it carried the weight of centuries of fear. Mordred's claws flexed. He would not be tricked. Not now, not ever. The city was his hunting ground now, but he was no longer merely a predator. He was a force, a hybrid of spider and man, Ka and hunger, prophecy and blood. And somewhere in the depths of Derry, Pennywise knew it. The game was far from over. The rain had stopped, leaving Derry slick and reflective, a mirror of shattered light and darkness. Mordred moved through the streets like a shadow born of prophecy, every step deliberate, every sense alert. The city was alive with the echoes of the clown, whispers curling around corners, teasing from darkened windows and alleyways. Pennywise had returned, not merely a creature of tunnels or sewers, but a force suffusing reality itself. From the reflection in a puddle, Mordred saw it, a form shifting impossibly, stretching, multiplying, eyes glinting red and yellow in impossible combinations. Pennywise's grin was everywhere. It was in the broken streetlights, in the glass of abandoned storefronts, in the shadows behind lampposts. "Welcome, little spider," the clown said, voice overlapping itself 100 times, echoing from every corner at once. "You've learned, you've grown, but are you ready?" Mordred flexed his claws, 8 limbs coiling with tension. Hunger surged within him, sharp and precise, but it was tempered by intellect, by the Ka thread that pulsed faintly at the base of his skull. He had learned in the tunnels, had learned in the alleys. Fear was a weapon, but it could be resisted, could be used. "I am ready," he said, voice low, venomous, and absolute. "I will not fall to you." The air shimmered, reality bent. Streets stretched unnaturally, buildings leaning at impossible angles, shadows moving independently, reaching for him. From the darkness, the clown emerged, colossal, many-limbed, teeth jagged, maw dripping with darkness and echoes of screaming children. Mordred lunged, fully spider now, 8 limbs striking with impossible speed. Pennywise twisted, forms multiplying, illusions spiraling around him. Each attack Mordred made struck false bodies, but he anticipated it, calculated it, struck again and again. The city itself seemed to pulse with the rhythm of their battle. Streetlights flickering, windows shattering, asphalt cracking under the psychic tension. "Ah!" Pennywise shrieked, voice a chorus of overlapping screams. "You are strong, clever, but strength alone will not unmake me." Mordred's eyes flickered black, his claws raking through the core of the clown's essence. Shadows screamed and dissolved into mist. Reflections warped and shattered. Pennywise recoiled, But the clown was not defeated. It was everywhere, its laughter threading into the very air, twisting the world into fear itself. Mordred paused for a heartbeat, senses flickering, catching the faintest pulse of Roland's presence through the Ka thread. The teachings of the gunslinger, the lessons of prophecy, guided him. Attack the mind as well as the body. Strike where the prey is vulnerable. He focused, feeding hunger with intellect, turning fear against its master. Suddenly the illusion changed. Pennywise became Roland, standing in the middle of the street, pistols drawn, eyes sad, disappointed. Mordred hesitated. The human part of him flickered. The boy, the heir, the child of prophecy saw his father in peril. Panic rose, hunger and instinct clashing with emotion. "Do you hesitate?" the clown whispered, voice low, intimate, a serpent in his mind. "Do you falter? I am your fear, your doubt, your blood. I am all that you are not." Mordred snarled, claws flexing, eyes turning black. "No," he roared, "you are mine." He struck. 8 limbs moved as one, a blur of predatory power, tearing through the illusion of Roland. It dissolved into smoke and whispers, leaving Mordred standing, chest heaving, eyes blazing with fury. He had not faltered. He had recognized the illusion for what it was. Pennywise shrieked, a sound that split the air, warping reality further. The city trembled, streets cracked, glass shattered, neon lights flickered and died. Children's laughter twisted into screams, shadows stretched like living things. Yet Mordred advanced, claws striking, moving faster than the eye could follow. He shifted again, human form blending with spider, intellect guiding every strike. Pennywise's forms were collapsing under his onslaught, illusions shattering into fragments of pure shadow. But the clown adapted, shifting faster, morphing into new forms, each more grotesque, more alien, designed to strike at Mordred's mind as well as his body. "You cannot destroy me," the clown hissed, voice layered with centuries of cruelty. "I am older than you, older than fear itself." Mordred's black eyes flared. "Then you will learn that even fear has limits." With a surge of Ka, Mordred coiled, springing forward like a living shadow. His claws tore into the heart of the clown, rending flesh, shadow, and essence. Pennywise screamed, a sound that made the city shiver, a scream that echoed through walls, streets, and minds. For a moment the world paused, held in suspense between predator and terror incarnate. Then Pennywise struck back, not with body but with mind. Memories, fears, visions, Roland's death, Susanna screaming, Jake pleading assaulted Mordred's consciousness. Hunger flared, instinct screamed, but Mordred's Ka thread pulsed, anchoring him. He focused, feeding intellect with instinct, turning the fear against the clown itself. "You will not control me," he hissed, claws flashing. "I am Ka, I am destiny, and you are prey." Pennywise reeled, the assault of Ka, of hunger and prophecy, tearing through its illusions. It shrieked again, a sound of pure rage and panic. The city itself seemed to warp under the psychic tension, buildings bending, shadows twisting, streets cracking, glass shattering. Yet Mordred advanced, relentless, every strike precise, calculated, unerring. Finally, with a roar, Mordred struck the central essence of Pennywise. The clown screamed, twisting, writhing, fracturing, and for the first time, truly, it faltered. Its forms collapsed, illusions shattered, shadows dissipated. Silence fell, thick and heavy. The streets of Derry were still. Rain dripped from broken signs. Reflections in puddles were distorted but stable. Mordred stood, human and spider merged, claws flexing, eyes black and blue, chest heaving. Pennywise was gone, for now. Mordred knew it would return. It was older than Ka, older than the world itself. But for this moment, he had triumphed. Hunger, intellect, and Ka had combined, overcoming fear incarnate. He shifted fully back into human form, red mark glowing faintly on his heel. He had survived the city, survived the illusions, survived the heart of fear itself. And somewhere, deep in the shadows, he could sense it. Pennywise watching, learning, plotting. The game was far from over, but Mordred had learned too. Fear could be faced, manipulated, turned into a weapon. Hunger could be controlled, sharpened, directed. Ka threaded his actions, guiding him. And for the first time, the Spider Boy felt unstoppable. The streets of Derry lay shattered, but he moved forward, step by step, claws retracting, senses alert. Somewhere in the darkness, Pennywise waited, and Mordred would be ready. The battle for Derry was not over. But in this moment, in this victory, Mordred understood something essential. Even the oldest, most monstrous fear could bleed, could falter, could be defeated, and he would make sure of it. The rain had finally stopped. Derry lay in quiet ruin, streets slick and reflective, buildings scarred by the psychic war that had raged above ground. Broken glass littered the sidewalks, and the distant hum of the city seemed muted, as if reality itself were holding its breath. Mordred stood at the center of an empty intersection, claws retracted, eyes flickering blue and black. His chest heaved, not from exhaustion, but from the raw, pulsing awareness of his own power. Hunger still simmered, but it was controlled now, tempered by intellect and Ka-thread. The city had been his battlefield, Pennywise his target, and he had prevailed. Yet, the victory was not total. He could feel it. Pennywise had withdrawn, but it was watching, waiting, learning. Its laughter still echoed faintly in the corners of his mind, a whisper riding the Ka-thread like a poisoned wind. The clown was older than Derry, older than fear, and it would return. That much was inevitable. Mordred flexed his claws, feeling the strength that surged through him. His form shifted smoothly between human and spider, a reminder that he was both predator and child, human and something far more. He had tested his abilities, stretched the limits of body and mind, and had survived. The illusions, the manipulations, the psychic assault of Pennywise, all had failed to break him. And yet, he was aware that power alone was not enough. Knowledge, cunning, and patience were equally essential. He could not allow himself to be drawn into fear again, not while Pennywise still existed. The Ka-thread hummed faintly, a reminder of his lineage, of Roland, of the destiny that had been laid out long before his birth. He moved through the city cautiously, senses alert for the faintest distortion, the smallest ripple of psychic energy. Every puddle reflected not only the physical world, but the echoes of fear, the traces of the clown's presence. He touched the water with a claw, and for a moment it shimmered, a ripple of color and shadow. But there was no immediate threat, for now Pennywise had retreated. Mordred paused at the edge of a shattered park, the remnants of children's playgrounds twisted into grotesque shapes by the psychic battle. The swings creaked in the wind, the slide glinted with water and broken glass. For a moment, he allowed himself to breathe, to observe. He was a predator, yes, but he was also a child of Ka, a being born of prophecy and blood. This city, scarred as it was, had been a test, and he had passed. But survival was only the beginning. He knew the clown would return, and when it did, it would not come as a single form. Pennywise was cunning, and it had learned from the battle. Mordred would have to be ready, sharper and faster, stronger and smarter. Hunger, instinct, and Ka had carried him this far, but strategy would carry him further. He crouched in the shadow of a broken street lamp, eyes scanning the ruined streets. The red mark on his heel pulsed faintly, a reminder of his lineage, a symbol of power and connection. It had guided him through the tunnels, through the illusions, through the heart of fear itself, and it would guide him again. In the distance, a faint ripple of movement caught his attention. He tensed, claws flexing. But it was nothing, just a stray animal, or perhaps another illusion left behind by the clown. He did not relax, not yet. Mordred shifted fully into spider form, moving silently over rooftops and debris, a shadow within shadows. The city was quiet, but he could feel the potential for chaos. Pennywise had left marks, traces of its influence embedded in the fear of the living, in the shadows of the streets, in the minds of those who had walked the alleys unaware. Mordred was aware, alert, ready. For the first time, he allowed a thought of the future. If Pennywise returned, as it surely would, he would be ready. He would strike with precision, with cunning, with the full measure of his hybrid strength. Fear would not control him. Hunger would not control him. Only Ka, only destiny, would guide his actions. And somewhere, in the shadows, the clown stirred. Its laughter, faint and distant, carried on the wind. It had been challenged, wounded, forced to retreat, but it had survived. The game was far from over. Mordred paused, crouched in the shadow of a crumbling building. He could feel the city around him, alive with whispers of what had occurred. Buildings bore scars not just of stone and metal, but of psychic conflict, of battles fought in realms beyond simple human perception. He was the predator now, but Pennywise was still the predator of fear itself. He flexed his claws, shifting back to human form. Eyes blue, red mark glowing faintly, he breathed slowly, evenly, feeling the Ka thread pulse in response to his heartbeat. The world was still, momentarily, and he had survived. For now. But he knew that the city would remember. Pennywise would remember. And Mordred, child of prophecy, spider of Ka and blood, would be ready. The shadows lengthened as night fell again over Derry. Mordred moved silently, blending with the darkness, a predator within a city of ghosts. Every corner, every alley, every puddle could conceal the return of the clown. He would not be surprised. He would not be caught unprepared. And somewhere beneath the city, in the labyrinth of sewers and tunnels, Pennywise stirred, its essence shifting, its forms flickering, plotting, waiting. The game had changed. The predator had become a new kind of predator, a child of Ka and destiny, who had faced fear incarnate and survived. The clown laughed, faint and distant, a whisper in the ruins. Mordred's eyes narrowed. He had learned much, gained strength, honed abilities that would serve him well. But the battle was ongoing. The war for the streets of Derry, for the heart of fear, was far from over. Mordred crouched low, claws resting lightly on the pavement, senses alert. His hunger, his Ka, his intellect, all were sharpened, focused, ready for the inevitable return of Pennywise. And in the quiet, the city seemed to hold its breath, waiting, watching, knowing that the Spider Boy had emerged victorious, for now. But the shadows whispered, as they always did, and somewhere the clown laughed. The streets of Derry had been scarred, a battlefield of mind and body, fear and prophecy. But Mordred had survived, and he would continue to survive, sharpening himself, preparing for the day when Pennywise returned. Because he was no ordinary child. He was Mordred, child of Ka, heir of prophecy, predator and spider, hunger and intellect intertwined. and he would not be afraid. The echoes of the battle faded into the night, but the tension remained, a taut thread stretching across the city. The war was not over, but Mordred had survived, and the clown would return.